What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Jonas Sparks. I'm the creator of the local movie blog. It's a blog where I talk about movies, talk about movie reviews, to give my weekend box office numbers and reviews, and give my own personal top 10 list. I started the blog back in June, and I've been doing it for a couple of months. I haven't really done anything this past month, with a few things going on in my personal life. But aside from that, I'm going to start getting back to what I wanted to do with this blog. I said back in June when I created the blog that I would like to move it to a YouTube show, and which that's what I'm doing right now. Currently, we're filming the first episode right here, so for those of you who are watching, congratulations, and you're part of history for watching this very first episode. And hopefully that when this episode's over, you really enjoy it. That way you can share it to your friends. And we want to make this blog big. We want to make this show big and just get it out to the world to help inform people of some movies. But today, this first episode will be a review of Kick-Ass 2, which a film me and my co-host Tyler Hubbard just got out of seeing a couple hours ago. But to introduce my co-host, Tyler Hubbard, he is my roommate in college, and he's one of my best friends from high school. Tyler, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
That's good. But yeah, we're going to review Kick-Ass 2 today. So if you want to see Kick-Ass 2 or haven't seen it, then just put this in the watch later because we're going to talk about spoilers. For those of you that don't care, then we're going to go trucking. If spoilers don't bother you, then fine by me. But Tyler, what were your overall impressions of Kick-Ass 2?
Well, I really loved it. It just brought a fresh new approach to the whole superhero movies. It starts out, you know from the very beginning that it's going to be a fresh take where it starts out with a little bit of narration, in Kick-Ass about how this isn't your typical superhero tale and whatnot of Spider-Man stuff. His parents weren't shot or anything like that. And that's exactly what it was. And then I really liked the whole direction it went with bringing all the superheroes together, kind of like the Avengers. I really love that. That definitely made it a huge movie for me. I absolutely loved that about it. I really thought it was a great movie, great acting, everything in it, the action, the storyline, all of it was just great. I definitely want to see a part three.
I kind of concur with you. I enjoyed the first one as much as I know you enjoyed the first one too. But I really enjoyed this. It was a good take on a good direction to go for a sequel. It brought a lot of new faces into it, one of which was Jim Carrey as Colonel Stars and Stripes, which we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, it just brought a whole new take, like you say, on the superhero genre. That's what Kick-Ass did, and this just adds more to it of what the current trend of superhero movies are. With it started out with just a regular superhero movie, and then it formed a team in Justice Forever, sort of like how Marvel did with their Avengers. So really, it's kind of going along the flow of what the current comic book trend movie is going today. But speaking of Colonel Stars and Stripes, Jim Carrey, what were your overall impressions of him joining Kick-Ass 2?
Oh, I absolutely loved him. He was just an awesome character. His acting was perfect. He was just that. He kind of replaced, what was it, Big Daddy?
Yes, Big Daddy.
He pretty much replaced him as the leader of their group. It was just absolutely amazing. I loved it. He was truly a leader to them, and he was really awesome. He was, in a sense, kick ass. So,
You bring a very good point. Yeah, I loved him. He was a great addition to the cast, replacing a great actor, Nicolas Cage. I say great actor with caution because Nicolas Cage has done some bad movies here recently, but aside from that, he was a good person to replace Nicolas Cage in Kick-Ass 2. The one thing that his death. How did you feel about that? Was it too brutal for you, or did you really feel like that's how it should have went?
uh, I think that's how it should have went because you got this whole sense of these are the bad guys. They are going to be brutal. And it's just the overall flow of the movie. It's been pretty brutal from the start with Hit Girl and whatnot.
Speaking of Hit Girl, played by Chloe Grace Moretz, what did you think of her portrayal of Hit Girl in the second film? I know in the first film she was sort of this little girl that was just violent and caused a lot of controversy, but after everything blew over, it was a really good interpretation of Hit Girl because I've read the comics and I know what Hit Girl is sort of supposed to be like. But how did you like her in the second movie, the Kick-Ass franchise?
I really liked her, how she was getting in touch with her other side and whatnot. Again, I also really didn't enjoy that all too well. because I really wanted to see more of Hit Girl in this movie. I mean, she didn't really show up until what, the end and a little bit at the beginning.
I mean, yeah.
But I really love that we got to see her other half.
Oh, definitely.
She kind of,
definitely.
you know, she was acting more like a teenage girl. You could tell it was shown in the movie.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you. I mean, I wanted to see more Hit Girl, but yet in the first film we really didn't get much of her other side, Mindy McCready. We didn't get that.
Yeah.
We barely got it at all. And then in this one, it kind of sort of flip flopped with more Mindy and less Hit Girl.
Yeah.
So hopefully, if they make a third film, you know, it's going to be a little bit of even balance
Yeah.
between the both. Speaking of Kick Ass, what did you think of Aaron Taylor Johnson as the main character in Kick Ass?
Oh, I really loved it. You know, he went from, in a way, it took on that whole sense of Spider-Man. You know, it went from he was kind of a nerdy kid, even though he really wasn't much of a nerd. He was just kind of a loser, so to speak, and he became this really amazing superhero. And I loved him in the second one. He really became a true hero. He wasn't just some laughing stock who was backed up by Hit Girl and Big Daddy or whatnot. He really was like the main superhero in this one. I really loved it. He played the role pretty well.
So yeah, I pretty much agree with you. Aaron Taylor Johnson is one of the. He's only been in a couple movies, but his other movie that I know of him playing in besides the first Kick Ass is Savages, and in that movie he was probably the best actor in that movie. Him and Taylor Kitsch played off perfectly, but of course the movie was let's just say below par of what I expected out of an Oliver Stone movie. But yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson is perfect for this role. But yeah, most people didn't notice that when he played Kick-Ass in the first one, then he played this other guy in Savages. Most people didn't know that he was Kick-Ass until like they read the credits and they seen Aaron Taylor Johnson, same thing. But yeah, I agree that he's the perfect person for Kick-Ass. Speaking of perfect roles, Christopher Mintz-Plasse I think was perfectly cast as the Red Mist in the first film. How did you like his whole transformation into the mother effer in the second film? How was your overall perspective of that translation?
I loved it. He played the role of the psycho villain really well. And we've seen in past movies, Austin Powers, if any of you guys have seen it, how Scotty, he was just an average teen trying to be noticed by his dad, and his dad was a super villain, and he eventually turned evil in the end. I really loved how he became a villain, and where he had a personal tie to the superhero Kick-Ass, you know, where it set up how he became the villain, you know.
Yeah.
In the first one, Kick-Ass killed his dad, and then now he's coming back for revenge. I really liked that. I think it was pretty good.
What I thought was great about the whole thing was the comedy in the film. The comedy was just unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
The one-liners was great. One of my favorite lines from the film, though, was when there's a scene where supposedly were people thinking that Mindy McCready and Dave are dating, but they're not. And so Dave's girlfriend at the time thinks he's cheating on her with a 15-year-old. And Dave's girlfriend's friend, after she breaks up with him, said that one of her friends says, 15 gets you 20, perv. I literally laughed out loud and nearly fell out of my chair. I thought that was a great line. But yeah, the comedic timing in this, I thought it was really, really good. What did you think about the comedic timing? And do you think there could have been a little bit more or a little less, or was it just right?
Honestly, I gotta say, I think it was just right. I think they would have added a bit more. It would have took away from the action. And if there would have been less, it would have been, it would have took away from the whole comedy thing if there would have been less, obviously.
Speaking of action, we've seen two big action scenes. One in sort of in the middle of the second act, middle of the first act, towards the end of the first act, beginning of the second act, and then we've seen the final climatic fight. What did you think about both of those action sequences?
I loved them, especially the very end battle, which that's how a movie should be. The final battle should be the battle to end all battles.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely loved it. You know, it starts out with Kick-Ass and Hit Girl, they're all alone, and then that's the obvious bad guys laughing like, oh, we obviously got you outnumbered, and then the doors open up to reveal the entire army of superheroes.
Which in the final battle, there's two really sort of semi-battles going on in between all the major battles. One was between Hit Girl and Mother Russia, or Kick-Ass and the Mother Effort. Which one was your favorite battle out of the two?
I gotta say, Hit Girl and Mother Russia.
All right, I completely agree with you on that. Why was it your favorite battle?
Well, because they were obviously two more experienced fighters, so there's going to be more action between them. The whole reason that the Mother Effer grew his army was because he couldn't learn to fight. He couldn't do it. He's like, you know what, screw it. I got money. I'll pay people to fight for me.
Yeah.
And Kick-Ass, he's just kind of starting to. He was trained by Minnie, so obviously that proves right there she's a more experienced fighter.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with you. I love the way they played off of each other and the whole fighting of how it just was back and forth, and you see through this whole entire thing that Hit Girl's possibly gonna die, and then then when she brings up a scene from earlier with Adrenaline, and that gets plugged into her, then it just goes totally unbelievable. I loved it. The way that battle ended was just amazing to me. Speaking of the other fight between Kick-Ass and the Mother Effer, what did you think of that ending?
I think I really loved it. I mean, it kind of makes me wonder, how there is a third part to the comic books, but the way this ended, it's like they closed it off. There's no room for another one. Well, there could be, but it's gonna take some pretty good screenwriting.
Yeah, it definitely is. And the third comic, which I haven't read just yet, but I really plan on doing it. But yeah, I agree. It sort of, if you didn't know that there's a Kick-Ass 3 comic out there, you would have thought that this is it. That's it. I mean, this film series is done. There's not going to be a third one, and Kick-Ass 2 is it. But I agree with you that if you didn't read the comics, that you do not, that you didn't know that there's Kick-Ass 3, that the film's done. Speaking of the film being done, what did you think of the post-credit scene? The post-credit scene was just, for me, it was unbelievable. It was sort of funny in a way, but it's like, wow, that's all that happened to you after you fell into a Shark Tank. What? But what did you think of the post-credit scene?
I kind of enjoyed it. I thought it was funny. I wish there was more because when it just ended, it just started and then it was over. I'm kind of like, whoa, what happened here? Is that it?
Yeah, I agree. It was only like 10 seconds long, wasn't it? So I felt like they could have added a little bit more to it, and the Mother Effer could have vowed revenge, saying, "One day I'm going to replace these legs, and I will come after you again, Kick-Ass."
Yeah.
But speaking of that, between Kick-Ass 2 and Kick-Ass, which one did you like better, Kick-Ass 2 or Kick-Ass?
I had to say Part
2. Why was that?
Well, it just seems there's more action, and Kick-Ass has finally gotten off his feet. He can actually fight now. He's just not cowering. We're done with all that build up to his backstory and whatnot. We're done with all that. Now it's just solely focusing on action. It's bringing together a major battle between good and evil. It's not just showing the good of what Kick-Ass can do. It's also showing the bad of what his actions cause.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you on that sense. But I feel like the first one's better in the sense I love origin stories, and I just thought I kind of see what you're going with too, but in one you see the development of Chris D'Amico transferred from the Red Mist to the Mother Effer, sort of how he became the Mother Effer, and you learn all that. But I sort of like the first one. The only thing that kind of would maybe change my idea would be Jim Carrey's Colonel Stars and Stripes. But speaking of things that we sort of liked, what did you dislike about Kick-Ass
2? What did I dislike? It's a pretty tough question. I guess the main thing that I have to say is there just wasn't enough Hit Girl in it for me. I love her over all of them. Hit Girl is just my favorite, and there just wasn't enough action from her until pretty much that whole fight between her and Mother Russia.
I agree with you. The one thing I didn't like about the second one is it felt really long. It's shorter than the first film by almost 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But it felt longer.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you.
I mean, the pacing of the films felt so long and so drawn out. I felt like I was in there for almost 2.5 hours, but we were only in there for an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. And that's shorter than what the first film was. So I thought the pacing could have been done a little bit more better. I thought it went like quick scenes of Kick-Ass, and then went quick scenes of Hit Girl and Mindy, and then quick scenes of Kick-Ass and Dave, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We really don't see them on screen much together. It's we do in the sort of beginning of the first act, and then we do, of course, in the final act, the final part of the third act, and then we see them a couple times in and out, maybe hardly at all. We might see them once in between the beginning of the first act and the end of the third act. So I'd like to see more Kick-Ass and Hit Girl together, and the pacing of the film was really bad. But speaking of what we disliked and liked, what would you give out of 10? What would you give Kick-Ass to?
Probably about a 9.5.
9.5. Wow.
I would honestly want to give it a 10, but I can't be too generous.
Right. I'm going to give Kick-Ass to an 8.5. Simply because of the pacing, and I just didn't think it was as good as the first one, because the first one is a really good comic book movie. That's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. Be on the lookout for more videos. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's Jonas Sparks. Just look up my name. And just find us on there. Like, subscribe, favorite this video. And spread the word. Because we want to make this movie blog show great. And we can only do it with your support. We only can do so much. You all have to do the other part. But yeah, just thank you so much for watching this show. Me and Tyler really appreciate it. And we just want to say thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.